we are not in a situation where we have too much carbon. We've got this idea of global warming and climate change, and what it's really doing is it's making America very, very weak, and it's making our enemies very, very strong, because they're not willing to destroy their economies in their countries for pursuing this radical green environmental agenda.
Energy independence. It's something President Trump promised for our country, and as usual, he over-delivered. Not just making us energy independent, but energy dominant, a net exporter of energy, something Trump-backed candidate for Congress Harriet Hageman is reminding us of as the radical left continues their push to transform energy without realizing why they have the luxury to do so.
Prosperity that allows us the luxury of protecting our environment. Go to a third world country and tell me how they protect their environment. We destroy our economy. We destroy our ability to save jobs. We destroy our truckers. We destroy our small businesses. We're not going to have the same prosperity to be able to protect the environment the way that we do. We are a first world country because of the laws that we have and because of our care for that. But really it comes down to one thing, and that is prosperity. And prosperity and national security are absolutely tied to energy independence and energy policy. And this administration is a disaster.
And they're a disaster because they apparently think from where they are in the swamp, they can tell the people on the ground what to do. And Harriet Hageman, speaking for the incredible people of Wyoming, has had enough of it.
Some egghead in Washington, D.C., is making a decision about what we're doing in Wyoming. And we have been very effective in terms of drilling for our oil and gas, doing it environmentally sound, the same with our coal, the same with uranium. We have all of these natural resources that we can be using to make our lives better. One of the things I'm so proud of coming from Wyoming is we make people's lives better. We heat your homes in the winter, we cool your homes in the summer, we put food on your table, we put a roof over your head, and we pave your highways. That's a lot to be proud of coming from the state of Wyoming. And I don't want to have to continuously be fighting someone in Washington, D.C. who is going to make the decision that, you know what, Harriet, we're not going to let you do that this year. We don't like that you're doing that. We are the most prosperous, the very best, the most incredible country on earth because of what we've been able to do with the freedom and the development and the opportunities we've had. It has been really crazy how much power has been stockpiled in Washington, D.C. We need to stop stockpiling power in Washington, D.C., and we need to stop sending all of their money because it's really fundamentally broken. And when you have an administration like this, it becomes so evident so quickly. I think that everybody in this room is probably stunned at how fast this happened, but that's also why I'm optimistic, because I know that we can fix it very quickly as well. Just unleash the ingenuity of the American people.
Joining us now with more on this, the only candidate for Congress in Wyoming who has President Trump's complete and total endorsement, Harriet Hageman. Harriet, it was so good to see you at CPAC. This discussion that you had on energy, everyone's talking energy right now and the dependent position that we're in because of Biden and his enablers, which does include Liz Cheney.
Well, it does. It includes anyone who's not doing everything in their power to stop this administration and their radical green agenda, as I stated at CPAC on Friday. We need all hands on deck. We need everybody to be exposing what happens when you allow AOC and Greta Thunberg to make your international and your national policy for your own country, as well as what you're going to do from a national security standpoint. We're in this mess because one of the very first things that Joe Biden did when he came into office, he canceled the XL pipeline. He said that he was going to place a moratorium on any new drilling and permits on federal lands, which is predominantly in the western United States and in Alaska. And he approved or greenlit the Nord Stream 2 pipeline for Russia. Every policy decision that he did has brought us to the point where we are right now with Russia invading Ukraine. Anybody with a lick of sense could tell what was going to happen. And I'm going to say the Democrats have been telling us for years and years and years. I read a quote from 2008 where the Democrats have said, there's no such thing as energy independence. That gets people excited, but it is never going to happen. Yes, it can happen, and it did happen under President Trump. We were energy independent because he had smart policies about energy development in the United States and recognized that energy security is national security. You bring in the Democrats, you bring in a Joe Biden, and what do? They destroyed that. And now we're in a situation where we've got civilians and individuals being killed because Russia is moving. This didn't have to happen, and it's happening because of failed policies of the Biden administration.
What's so interesting is during the campaign, we all talked about the Green New Deal because that's what AOC +3 and really everyone in the radical left was talking about, and yet they didn't even need to pass anything in Congress. This has been Biden from the very beginning, simply reversing every single one of President Trump's energy policies and really embracing it as, oh, you know, it's going to hurt a little bit, but this transition is worth it. That's what the Secretary of Energy is saying. That's what Mayor Pete's saying. They say it's worth it, yet we're the ones that have to pay for it.
Well, that's absolutely true. And what I would say about both Mayor Pete as well as the Jennifer Granholm, both of them are incompetent at the highest order, at just the highest level. One of the things you can safely say about this administration is people continue to fail upwards. And that's what we're seeing, and we're all suffering the consequences of that. You cannot, at this point in where the technology is, we cannot do without fossil fuels. It isn't feasible. And the people who are our so-called leaders in Washington, D.C. know that. So why they continue to pursue policies that they know are going to cause pain at the pump, pain in at the grocery store, pain in terms of being able to provide affordable housing. Again, every single metric that we have, they're failing us because they're attempting to pursue an agenda that, number one, isn't feasible, and number two, is just plain bad policy. Tell me whether you believe that China and Russia and Pakistan and India and these other countries, tell me whether you truly believe they're willing to destroy their economy and dramatically reduce the standard of living of their citizens in order to pursue something along the lines of a Green New Deal. The Green New Deal in and of itself doesn't make sense. And in addition to which, if we produce energy in America and not only consume it here, but export it, it is cleaner for the environment. Our oil and gas that we produce in the United States is cleaner than the gas that they produce in Russia. Our coal that we produce in Wyoming in the United States is cleaner for the environment than it is in China and some of these other countries. Their mining techniques and technology are dramatically different than they are in the United States. So again, what we're doing is we're actually making the environment worse at the same time that we're destroying our own economy.
That was the whole reason President Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, because America was having to do things that other countries weren't having to do. And like you said, we had the cleanest air and the cleanest water. It's not as if we were compromising who we are in order to do this. And our allies, they would be so much better off right now, as would we, dealing with Russia and Ukraine situation, because right now everybody's dependent instead of being able to come to America, and for us to be able to provide our allies with all of this. It's just, this never had to happen, and the rhinos that have enabled it, Lisa Murkowski, of course, in Alaska, didn't stand up for the people there, and Liz Cheney there in Wyoming, refusing to stand up for the people there. What do you think it is about rhinos that are simply going on the side of the radical left on this issue?
You know, I would say that I don't tend to use the word rhino as much anymore as the uniparty. The way that I see it is that there's a group of people, there's an elitist group of people. I'd even refer to them as the manage the decline party. And there is a group of people in Washington, D.C. that, number one, think that they're smarter than we are, but number two, know that they're never going to have to suffer the consequences of the bad policy decisions that they make because of the amount of money that they make, the way that they are sheltered from the consequences of these decisions. So what you see with Liz Cheney is that she has made the decision that her sole purpose in life right now is to destroy President Donald Trump. She's even said it. She has said the purpose of that committee is to make sure that Donald Trump never gets near the White House again. Well, I'm sorry, that isn't why Wyoming sent her to Congress. And if that's what she wants to pursue, she needs to resign her congressional seat here because she's not representing us, and she needs to go back and work exclusively for Nancy Pelosi. But that's the thing. When you take your eye off of the ball, there are really bad things that happen. The way that I say it is that when government does things that it shouldn't be doing, it becomes incapable of doing the things that it should. And that's exactly what's happening with the January 6th committee. Liz Cheney's on the January 6th committee. She's not on the Natural Resource Committee. She's not out there working to make sure that we're able to supply these the energy resources that we have to Germany and to Europe. She's not doing that. Right now, we have the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. sitting on the top of and holding back on at least 6 permits for us to be able to export LNG to Europe. They won't process them. They won't approve them. They're trying to prevent us from doing that. What does that do? That empowers Putin in Russia. Right. This whole thing, I mean, you could take somebody out of 8th grade in Lingle, Wyoming, or Rock Springs, Wyoming, or Newcastle, Wyoming, or Sheridan, Wyoming, or Denver, Colorado, and every one of them can tell you that there is a cause and effect and what the cause and effect will be. Yet we have these elitist experts back in Washington, D.C. who seem to be sitting around saying, gee, how did this happen? Well, we know how it happened. We know how it happened, and they're failing us.
They are failing us, and in November, obviously it starts in the primaries, but it's time to fire them, because really when they attack President Trump, when they try to reverse that, that is a direct attack on the people of this country. They're the ones living the policies. And Harriet, thank you for giving them a voice. God bless you in your continued efforts. And again, we just can't wait for the primaries and then the general.
Natalie, thank you. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you too. We'll see you soon.